G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Thanks for watching Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we're back at Tall Towers. This is a tank that we installed well over 12 months ago, so we're here today to see how it's progressing. So this tank is well and truly established, and we have quite a few fish in this tank, including a variety of anthias, tangs and other fish, as well as a few corals. The tank isn't heavily stocked with corals, and that kind of provides a nice balance between the fish and the corals. So let's have a look at the equipment that we're running on this tank and exactly how well it's doing. So first of all, the water flow. Now that is one of the most challenging things with a tank which is so tall. This tank is actually 80 centimeters tall and only 120 centimeters long. And so the water flow is particularly critical, and we have a combination of a Gaia style wave pump, and that's pushing water across the surface and is providing really good surface agitation. We also have an Ecotech MP40. Now we have this a little bit lower down, and this is the wave maker that we've tried in several positions to really sort of maximize the flow of the tank. Now the reason why it is important is because when you have such a tall tank, it's very easy to neglect water flow in the bottom half, and it's particularly important to have good mixing and water circulation, or else you can end up with some problems like what we have here, which is cyanobacteria. Let's have a look underneath the tank before we look at the lights. One of the challenges with this tank was that we had to have all of the filtration as well as the chiller in the cabinet under the tank. So that really created a difficulty with the amount of space that we've got. And so we have what is a relatively short sump, and it is the full width of the tank. So the water flows down through into this overflow box, through some sponges, we're going to have to clean those in a second, through the skimmer and then back up into the tank. And the filter is working quite well. We've just checked the nitrate and the phosphate and they're not too bad, but the skimmer definitely needs a clean, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. To the immediate right of the sump, we have an automatic top-up reservoir. So you can see that it's quite empty. We haven't been here for 3 weeks, so we're going to fill this up again, and this feeds RO water into the sump to maintain the salinity that we want, as well as to ensure that the sump doesn't run dry. Now we also have a Tico 500 chiller. Now this chiller has been doing the job quite well. It's kind of on its maximum rating for the size of the tank, but previously it has always kept the temperature down to 25 degrees. And I think I know the reason why it's not quite doing the job at the moment. The dust trap in the front of the chiller is extremely clogged up. So we're going to have to give this a good clean. Let's have a look at the lights, because they're really cool lights for this tank. As you can see, we have two Gen 4 Radeon Pros on the rail above the tank. Now the rail is actually attached to the edges of the pelmet, so it does mean that when we take this pelmet off for maintenance, the lights have to come off as well. So we'll do that in a second, but the lights are providing a fairly good spread across the length of the tank, although I'm actually thinking that we might look at getting a third in the future. Today we're here to do a service on this tank, so we're going to start with the filter. The first thing is our filter socks, our acrylic filter socks. You can see how totally chockers this floss is with waste. So I'm just going to chuck that out. Put some more in. The skim is particularly bad. We're going to need to tune this after we do the service, but to clean it, I'll take the head off. I'm going to leave it running. It shouldn't overflow too much and make a mess, but I'll take this to the sink and clean it out with a scouring pad. Back in a sec. This is the one problem with not turning off the NIOS when you're cleaning it, is that getting the cup back on is a little bit difficult because the bubbles actually obscure the neck. Anyway, the next thing we're going to do is the automatic top-up reservoir. We've just brought some RO water from the shop. I'm just going to fill it straight into here. You can see that we've got the chiller turned off, and that's because we're about to cut the flow which is feeding it, and it's always best to have your chiller turned off if there's no water passing through it. But I really need to clean this dust trap, and so to get into it, this front section just comes off. There's little magnets that allow it to stick in place, and this is the dust trap, and that is incredibly dusty and clogged, so that really needs a clean. I'm just going to take it outside and just give it a bit of a hose. There we go, much better. So I'll put this back in place now that it's clean. Probably the main part of the service today is going to be a 50% water change using natural seawater. And to start off, I'm going to use just a normal siphon hose, and I'm going to use the old suck, pinch and pull method to remove some of this filamentous algae. So there's a heap of this algae, so much so that I'm going to have to split the water across 2 buckets just so I can carry it. Alright, I'll take this one out first. I've done pretty much everything that I need to do with the tank as far as the service goes, so now I'm going to do the water change. I've got our large hose, our adjustable candy cane, and I'm just going to run outside and start the siphon. So we're at 50%. I'm going to stop the siphon. Now it's really important that I start filling this up as quickly as possible because we've got the LPS out of water. So we've got the candy cane, the gonnies, but in particular that massive leather. So I'm going to get this started ASAP. So the tank's full, we've fully serviced the filter. I'm just going to hook everything back up again, turn the lights on, and then we have one more important job afterwards. So before we did the water change, we did a test on all the parameters. So we've tested the salinity, the nitrate, the phosphate, pH, KH, calcium and magnesium. Now we found that whilst the nutrients are not ideal, that was the reason for the water change, what is actually of most concern is the calcium, KH and magnesium are higher than we want. So we're going to drop the KH and the calcium down by about 5% on the doser. So for that, we need our phone. So you may recall with this system, we're running the Aquaforest components 1, 2, 3. So the first one, the 1, is actually calcium, and we have this on the first dosing pump. Now our doser is a Kamoa Wi-Fi, which is why I'm using the phone to change the levels. So I'm just going into the dosing schedule to see how much we're dosing. So we're dosing 3 times a day at 11 mils per dose. Now this is calcium. I'm going to drop that down. I'm actually going to drop that down to 9 mils per day. And the goal for me is typically to match the parameters in the tank with the natural seawater that we use. And so typically the natural seawater has a calcium level of somewhere between 420 and 440. So hopefully 9 mils 3 times a day will give us that calcium reading. So that's our job for today. Everything's done, the water change, the filter service, the tank's looking good. And so in future, we'll come back to Tall Towers, we'll do more updates and we'll show you the progress as we go. That's it for today's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. I'm Cam the Fish Guy and happy reefing. So that's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe as well. We'll be putting out videos every week showing a new tank with new products. There's going to be lots in all the videos. I'm Cam the Fish Guy and keep on reefing.